Dean Meyer, it's great to have you here. How are you?
I'm great, Art. It's an honor. It's always a delight to swap ideas with you.
It's so much fun. We had a chance to connect, and we've known of each other, I think, over the years. I think
Mm,
you were kind enough to provide me with one of your earlier books. And now that you have your new book out, How Organizations Should Work, Envisioning a High-Performing Organization Made of a Network of Internal Entrepreneurs, we've really been able to ratchet up the relationship a little bit. So congratulations on the book, and thank you for being here today.
oh, my honor. Thanks, Art. This is the capstone. Uh, all the prior books, this is the eighth book, not counting the ones that I've deprecated, but it puts together all the pieces and creates a vision of how an organization based on empowerment and entrepreneurship would really work, what it would feel like to work there. So that's why I really reached out to you and said, Art, this is my life work. Here it is in a nutshell.
Treated carefully, respectfully, and well, I have to tell you, your life work is fantastic, and I've kind of been following the buzz about the book as well, and there's just so
Mm,
much positive feedback. And for everybody listening, whether you're one of my students or one of my clients, or you're just being exposed to this for the first time, I loved Dean's new book so much, I decided to teach it at a course at the University of Wisconsin Green Bay. Happened to be my first course there since my wife and I moved. The mix was probably 60% non-traditional students, which is code for working professionals out there in the workplace
mhm,
back for their degree, and 40% traditional students.
mm.
To a person, they love the text. They love your approach to it. So, I think
Oh,
we've got something special here on a really important topic, which is transforming organizations and building high performance and doing it in a way that's fit for people and fit for the times and the era. So, that's my commercial, and I'm sticking to it. I just love the work. But let's lead off with a question, and I know this one kind of it's a little bit of a head scratcher sometimes, but I ask every author about it. You sit down, you write this book. What is the problem that you're trying to help us solve?
mm. Not easy question for me because there are so many problems that have their root cause in the design of the organization. And by that, I don't mean just the organization chart. I mean the whole organizational ecosystem in which we work. Um, right now, organization, this is, have you heard the term VUCA?
Yeah,
Volatility.
volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Yeah.
Exactly. This is a VUCA world. And organizations designed based on old principles weren't meant to handle it. They're not agile. They're not sufficiently innovative. The performance levels aren't there. And they're not great places to work. I mean, we've heard the term quiet quitting or disengagement.
Sure, sure.
It's because it's not a great place. So all of those are rooted in the same core issue, the design of the organizational operating model, or the ecosystem, as I call it. So what I was after was really not a simple solution, a 1 minute manager kind of thing, but a
Boy,
really,
that sold a lot though.
I know
People
the way to make money
people
is
like
to,
that, but it's not that easy, is it?
right, the way to make money is to take some really trivial idea, expand it somehow into 200 pages and market the hell out of it. But no, that's not what I did. What I'm trying to do here is a really comprehensive view of
Mhm.
an ideal organization. And that encompasses every aspect of the ecosystem, its organizational structure, the teamwork processes, priority alignment, resource governance, culture, metrics. All of that has to come together to make a great organization. So the problems I'm trying to solve, just about anything that has to do with organizational performance.
It's interesting, and I don't know if you followed the gentleman's work. I have been a big fan of Gary Hamel's for
Sure.
forever, basically. And
Mm-hmm.
Gary's fundamental premise is, hey, look, management must be reinvented. The way we structure, lead, and develop our organizations has to be
Mm-hmm.
changed because we're using tools and approaches that were created for another era, another point in time. They still have vestiges of the Industrial Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
I like that you're taking that thesis, at least in my mind, you are, and you're giving us a model, a framework as to how to do that, how to actually reinvent it. Gary says we have to do it. You tell us how to do it. Pretty cool.
Well, Art, you're the leadership guru in this
Oh, I
bunch.
don't know. I don't know if a
I'm
guru.
the organization guy, you're the leadership guy. But tell me if you agree with this. I believe that organizational design is the most important competency of leadership at all levels. And I say that because if you're a leader, particularly at the management and above level, If you design a great organization for whatever it is you control, be it your little group or your department or the whole enterprise, if you design a great organization, then all your talented people will deliver strategies and performance and customer focus and entrepreneurship and innovation forevermore. You'll have leveraged your time and built an organization that'll prosper long after you've moved on. So to me, this is the most fundamental leadership competency. What do you think?
Powerful statement. I'm intrigued. I confess to having a little bit of a tug of war about the most, but nonetheless, I love your perspective. So no qualms about that. I have a little bit of tug of war with a topic we're going to talk about later too, of strategy or structure first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I've spent most of my life leading strategy in technology organizations and growing. Had the great fortune to apply, before I had access to your concepts, many of the concepts, and grow two market leaders along the way. And the two worked harmoniously. Without strategy, we had no ability to define the right structure. Without the right structure, we had no ability to execute on the strategy. But let's hold that.
Yeah, I'm going to challenge your thinking whenever you're ready on that.
That's good. I look forward to that. So, and the students and clients will appreciate that.
Fun.
So I'm interested, and this is maybe a little nuanced. So in the title, you use the word envisioning. It doesn't say realizing or creating. I'm really intrigued by that particular word choice, envisioning.
Imagination is the first step in invention.
Mm-hmm.
Vision is the first step in transformation. If you don't know where you're going, any road will do. So I hope the most important part of my contribution is really, really clear and detailed vision. You could call it architecture. You could call it blueprint of what a truly great organization is all about. One that empowers people and sets them up as internal entrepreneurs, that builds great teamwork across the organization, and so on and so on. So vision is the starting point. But you'll note in the book, there's a whole lot of depth on the practical principles.
Oh my gosh, yes. I think that's the heart of it. It is practical. Yeah, no doubt about it.
And also, there's a whole section of the book dedicated to implementation processes. Yes. I believe the implementation, the change management is critically important. It should be participative and open and based on principles, not politics and opinions. So it's really got, the book has three pieces to it. It's the vision, taken in detail down to each functional area and how it works. Principles underlying that. So the design principles that people can use in designing their own organizations, be that structure, resource governance, culture, metrics, whatever, and the change management processes. Three sections of the book.
Love the three-section approach. And you did so much right with this book. So one of the things that I've had exposure to with clients and students who've used it is you opted for a story approach. You have characters who tell the story throughout, maybe a la Lencioni or Goldratt or others like that. Why did you opt for that approach? And by the way, I found it fascinating and engaging.
All right, vouch for me on this, Art. My prior books were dense, filled with content, but tough reads.
Tough is a good word. Yes. Brilliant, but tough.
So when I started explaining these concepts to friends who aren't necessarily leadership or organizational gurus, it bewildered them until I came around to imagine this. Imagine this. Imagine what it would be like to work in an organization where ... Right. And that worked for me. So I went with it and took a lot of time to develop it, but I think people appreciate the narrative style because it has the depth of content, but it flows. It's like one guy said, you say something and it raises a question in my mind, and the next thing I know, your characters in the book ask exactly that question.
And then somebody answers it. So it's a great approach. So
I had a lot of fun with it.
All right, so core to the book, the business within a business approach supported by the golden rule.
Yes.
Help us understand that.
Well, two distinct pillars come together in the book. Shall we start with empowerment, the golden rule?
All right, I love it. And I think I quote you or Carlton, we see empowerment as the key to organizational performance.
Absolutely. Consider that. Well, first, let me define it. Empowerment to me means authorities and accountabilities match. They're in balance. You keep them together. Empowerment doesn't mean blank check, do whatever you want. It means you have
It's
all
not
of the.
chaos.
It's not chaos. It's not anarchy. It's that you have everything you need to succeed at your accountabilities, everything you need in the way of information and resources and decision authorities to succeed in what you're doing. If ever in the organizational design you separate authority from accountability, one person with authority, another with accountability, then I'll use black and white terms. I know there's lots of shades of gray in the real world, but just to illustrate the point, the person with authority and not concomitant accountabilities becomes an unconstrained tyrant. They can mandate whatever the heck they want without accountability for the consequences.
Right.
Meanwhile, the poor person who has accountabilities without sufficient authority is a helpless victim who can't succeed.
Sounds like just about every project manager and product manager I've worked across in some of the organizational designs. They're accountable for everything, but have no authority for everything, and it creates a lot of distress.
It can't work,
and for everyone else,
it cannot work. It cannot work. This is fundamental. That kind of organization cannot work. You'll get whimsical commands. You'll get helpless people. You know, according to the golden rule, authorities and accountabilities match. If I tell you how to do your job, then I'm partly accountable for your results. That is, if you fail, how would we know whether it's because I told you to do something stupid or you failed to execute on it? You can't know. So as soon as I start meddling in your authorities, I have to share accountability for your work. Whenever you set up an organization where one person tells another person how to do their job, you're violating the golden rule. It's not going to work.
Love that. So what was the phrase you used about unrestrained tyrants? Was that the right word?
Yeah, unconstrained.
I'm seeing that as a meme somewhere right now with a line through it.
No unconstrained tyrants
out there. Authority and accountability must match.
Let me know if you come up with a graphic idea. I'm not so good at images.
Yeah, I'm a word guy, not a picture guy, but something jumped to mind when you said that.
Yeah, I am too.
All right, so we've got the golden rule, we've got the empowerment component, we've got the must match. Now the business within a business approach.
Yeah, what I've found over the years is that when you think of your job as running a little business within a business, when you think of the rest of the organization that you work in as your customers and or your suppliers, when you focus on pleasing those customers, motivating those suppliers, teams form. When you focus on results, that is products and services, not just going through the motions, things happen. When you know it's your business, well, it's your job not only to satisfy past customers, support past customers, but deliver today's products and services, as well as invent your own future. I think it was Edwin Land who said, somebody's going to obsolete your products, it better be you. So we have innovation everywhere. We have agility as teams form fluidly. I need this from you, you're my supplier. On this project, but on that project, I don't. So to me, if you think like an entrepreneur running a little business within a business, it leads you to all the right answers.
Interesting. So I have to share that in 14 weeks of discussing this with 35 of my closest friends for that semester, this was the one point. They loved it, but they couldn't see how it could come to life. They really struggled to do that. So what's your guidance for that mid-level manager somewhere there to begin to adopt that type of thinking? Because they find organizational silos and KPI requirements and accountabilities and all of those other issues getting in the way of that business within a business approach.
Yeah, of course, the ideal is when a CEO wants to implement this enterprise-wide, but short of that, I've worked with CIOs who implement it throughout the IT department. And short of that, every manager can adopt some of this, despite the constraints of perhaps a less pleasant organizational operating model surrounding them.
That was said so nicely.
Regardless of what the rest of the world's doing, you can take the high road. So consider this. What business are you in? Do you know? Write it down.
Yeah.
Write it down. What is your domain, your boundaries? Your group sells any and all products and services which blank. Fill in the blank. Then say, okay, well, currently, what are my products and services? Not what do I do? This is really hard. This is hard for people. People can talk your ear off about all they do, but struggle to put into words what they sell at the end of the day. And when I say sell, I don't mean money changing hands. I'm not talking about chargeback. You would figuratively. What are you accountable for delivering at the end of the day? Your products and services. So a catalog, developing a product and service catalog can be a very powerful exercise in focusing your whole group on results. And then step
Who
three
are
is
who are your customers? Who are your suppliers?
exactly, that's my step three.
Right.
Yeah, who do I sell this stuff to? And it could be others within the company. It could be outside the company, more typically both. But get clear on who your customer is. And if you are tempted to say, my customer is the enterprise or the board of directors, wrong. How do you get a signature on a contract from that customer? No, you've got to be more clear than that. As Bob Dylan said, everybody's got to serve somebody.
Nice quote. So with the clients where you've seen this implemented in, for example, in the IT organization, the CIO, what were the challenges and how did they overcome this in bringing it to life?
Well, the challenges are not usually constraints around them from the rest of the enterprise. The challenges are not a boss telling them not to do this. There may be some challenge in getting the funding for a transformation in order to get help at it and have the time to do it. But this is really not a process of designing boxes on a chart or designing a prioritization scheme. The challenge is, I like to say, you'll appreciate this, Art, the real challenge is twisting minds. From do to sell, from bureaucrat to entrepreneur. So these processes have to be participative and leave people room, time to breathe and to think and to absorb and to play with these new concepts. Processes are all laid out. They're like, the saying, peeling an onion. I make them cry about something different each month. So we know how to teach it, but just give it time and focus on moving the bell curve steadily forward in terms of a different way of thinking, a different way of behaving in business.
So one of my longtime mentees, and this is a classic case where the mentee, the student becomes the teacher because he's now teaching me. He's led transformations in one of the biggest retailers in the world, and now he's leading transformation in one of the biggest financial institutions in the world. And he has some really great guidance that comes out of that, not the least of which is start small, help people begin to embrace the thinking, small experiments, and then begin to build over time. So
now that doesn't always work. Let's say
you two will have a fascinating debate when I meet.
Yeah. Well, consider this: if you're a department head, be it a CIO or a chief people officer, CFO, or head of sales or head of engineering or whatever, you've got a department there. To do experiments within your department, and all you can do is do what you can. So that's what you control. That's what you got to fix.
In fairness, he's doing organization-wide transformation, but he's piloting small.
So he's looking at the whole enterprise. But
he's working with the whole enterprise, but he's taking things in small, digestible chunks.
Okay,
For
so
example,
what is
a small initiative of 20 telephone people on the telephone answering technical questions ends up in a multi-billion-dollar business because they built on their small experiments.
I see.
Concept and expanded.
So there's a level you can go down in a functional hierarchy. As long as you've got a coherent line of business or set of businesses where there may be a lot of interdependencies within, but well-defined boundaries to the rest of the company, that's a good unit. But when you go lower than that and look to one little group where there are tons of interdependencies, then it gets really hard because as they change, they're counting on their customers and suppliers to work with them on that, who may look at them with a bewildered look in their eye and not play along. So choosing the right chunk is critical. It should be somewhat self-contained with well-defined boundaries and deliverables to the rest of the company.
So, I mean, it's a fact of life. Everywhere humans gather, a political environment breaks out. Politics are everything. People are incentivized, and what gets measured and what gets compensated gets done. And there's an awful lot of resistance that you can run into in this type of transformation work. How have your clients overcome that?
Well, first of all, politics is not a bad thing. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. Politics means different people representing. Well, it's not. It's beyond that. It's people representing different stakeholders. That's their job, seeking to find common ground.
It also reflects the reality that some people decide what gets done and who does what, and some people have that influence. So no, not a bad thing at all. And in fact, you can't choose not to engage in the political environment. That I'm not going to play those games. I
Right.
don't play games, but politics influence is about building the relationships and
Right.
ultimately cultivating the credibility, the trust, and the power in order to promote your initiatives. But transformation flies in the face of a lot of issues in an organization that breed resistance. So
Well,
how do
okay.
clients overcome that?
Let's break it into two pieces. Politics. Let's say you're a department head.
Yeah.
One kind of politics is your relationship with the rest of your peers in the enterprise. Another kind of politics is what's going on within your department. In my experience, we've never run into politics with the rest of the organization that would impinge on a transformation.
Oof.
But we don't.
You've lived just a wonderful life then.
No, it's more fundamental than that.
I've run into it in $70 billion organizations. In the most political environment where I ran into it was at the time.
No, I'm not saying the politics don't
$18
exist.
million environment. So
no, I get it.
It was in fact a resistance, a barrier to until those issues were resolved.
I get it, but I'm not saying politics doesn't exist. I'm saying politics doesn't slow down a transformation, because basically a C-level executive looks at his peers and says, look, you tell me what you want from me. Don't tell me how to run my department. The only exception might be a CFO that's trying to micromanage. But other than that, that boundary.
We'll have to agree to disagree on this point.
That's been my experience. We do a
lot.
We place a lot of effort on open communication. For example, we would typically start a process by talking to all those clients about what they don't like about us,
right,
and what their aspirations for us are, what their dream would be. And then we diagnose root cause and come back to them with a transformation plan that says, you see, here's the root cause of your concerns, and here's what we're going to do about it. And when you start with vision, gaps, root cause analysis, and a transformation plan, and you socialize that all over the company, that buys you time and grace.
I like the formula. There's a lot of goodness inherent in that.
You know, the change formula. You need a burning platform. People aren't going to jump out of a hot pan into the fire. You need clear reason not to stay where you are. Not, hey, things are okay, but it could be a little better. No, we can't stay. Maybe we succeeded in the past, but we can't stay here. Number two, you need a clear destination. Where are you taking us, boss? I'm not going to jump from pan to fire. Show me a safe place to land that I can believe in and indeed be inspired by. And the third piece of this full change formula is a clear path from here to there, so that when people sign up, they have confidence they're going to make it. They're on a winning team.
I've seen variations of that. I've seen a really successful variation where the boss didn't say necessarily, here's where. It's the group that figured out where because of their unique marketplace knowledge. In fact, adopting and being entrepreneurial and driving innovation. So to your point, I love when that happens, by the way. I love when it's the rest of the group boiling with ideas about where it should go.
Oh, yeah.
Eventually, somebody has to step in and say, okay, let's parameterize this.
And the way I usually come at that first step, the visioning step, is I'll meet with an executive in private and we'll do a rough draft of a vision. By vision, I don't mean some cute little sentence or paragraph, to be a world-class supplier of our products and services to help others make gobs of money. Boring. That's not going to motivate any change. But I mean a really detailed description of the end state, how things will work. It's usually 10 to 15 pages. So I'll work with the leader to draft that. And then we bring it back to the leadership team and engage them and say, okay, adds, changes, deletes. What do you think? And there's a series of workshops and discussion until it becomes the collective vision. So we prime the pump, if you will.
Okay. Nice.
But then, yes, absolutely. We spend whatever time it takes to get all the leaders on the same page. That's the starting point. And then, the gap analysis, how does that compare to where we are today? Not reactive to problems of today, but compared to our vision, what are the gaps? Not just what are the fires of the day. So it's a stretch assignment.
Sure.
And then the key is root cause analysis. Let's not go treating symptoms. Let's find out why our good people would create these gaps. What's broken in the organizational ecosystem that would cause our people to do other than address these gaps?
Peeling the layers of that onion, so critical.
Yeah.
No doubt about
That's what leads to the action plan. So as to the politics, when you socialize that, you've got all of the elements of the change formula. Most of your peers get on board. They may say, okay, I'm a little annoyed at you not being as available as I want you to be, but I get it. I get it.
Mhm.
It's going to be good in the end. As to the politics within, what you want to watch out for there are people who currently have authority and not concomitant accountability.
So back
Yeah,
to the
nice
golden
position to
rule.
be
Huh?
in. Do
Yeah.
whatever you want. Have some fun. Now, those people are going to perceive that they're losing something.
Mhm.
And those are going to be the tail end of the bell curve that could bite you.
Gotcha. So one of the interesting threads in there, and I remember the group discussions on the dichotomy between specialists and generalists.
Ah,
Talk about that, please. Help us understand that. It's a key theme in the book.
all right. God forbid one of your kids needs heart surgery. Do you go to your family medicine general practitioner
General
for that?
practitioner, right? Yeah.
No way. You go to a specialist, a cardiac surgeon, right? Why is that? It's because specialists always outperform
Mhm.
generalists. Always. They know how to do it, so their estimates are better. They can get there faster. They're up on modern methods and tools. They build higher quality because they know how. There's more innovation because they can keep up with the literature in their field. Specialists always outperform generalists in every way. But there's a catch.
Mhm.
What do you think of a
I've
bunch
been
of
waiting for this
specialists?
catch.
Yeah. What do you think of a bunch of specialists all running every which way without coordination? They'll never get anything done because none of them sees the big picture.
Right.
So you can't specialize if you can't team.
Hmm.
Now, let me go back to specialization. Why would organizations exist at all? Why would an organization perform any better than an equal number of individuals? It's specifically to get people to specialize, to permit specialization. An organization of generalists performs no better than an equal number of individuals. So to maximize organizational performance, you want to maximize specialization, but you can only do that if you focus on excellence in cross-boundary teamwork.
Nice, nice.
Let me put it another way. The way to increase your depth of specialization is to consolidate shared services.
Hmm.
So instead of, say, I'll use an IT example, instead of one AI generalist in each business unit, we bring them together into shared service, and we have one focusing on fuzzy logic and another on neural networks, another on rules-based shells, another on knowledge engineering, another on machine learning. You can afford to specialize more. Yeah, they can pinch hit for one another, but you've got someone who's really studying each of those distinct disciplines within the field of AI. That's true in any discipline.
Hmm.
Bringing them together increases specialization. But whoa, shared services, can I trust those guys to deliver? They don't report to me. Are they going to be able to team with everyone they need to? So when we think of structure, the purpose of the org chart is to define people's specialties, to create pockets, centers of excellence, you might say.
Hmm.
My world, lines of clearly defined lines of business. But you can't do that if you don't also focus on the team formation process across boundary. So the word structure means both org chart and cross-boundary teamwork process.
Nice, nice. So another statement that generated a lot of energy was, "We manage people by results, not."
Yeah,
Some people took umbrage at that. Oh, but I'm working hard, but you're unambiguous about that. We measure by results.
absolutely. As does the market as a whole.
Right.
So we value effort, we value, but if you don't get results at the end of the day, what have we got to pay you for? This is business.
Yep. It's a little bit of that cold hard reality.
So there, one implication is the only reason we give you budget. The only reason we give you budget, we don't give you budget to cover your costs. You don't go to the grocery store to give them money for rent, electricity, and compensation costs, do you? You give them money for food. The only reason we give a group a budget is to buy its products and services. And you better be the best deal in town. That is, you better deliver results that are quality and innovative at a fair price, below market price, reliably, with integrity. You better do that. So if you don't, we don't want to buy from you in the future. So business as a whole treats companies that way.
Mhm.
Companies treat their internal suppliers, their functional areas, in the same way. That's why you get the budget.
Sure.
And that's why you have to manage people by results.
A anecdotal, my lesson learned on that was in college. I had worked incredibly hard on a paper for my business and technical writing course at that point in time. And I didn't get the grade I wanted. I was able to do a rewrite to raise it a grade level, and I still didn't get it. And I went and sat down with the professor, and I described the amount of effort and time I put into it. And she said, "That's fantastic, but I evaluated based on the outcome of the paper, what I'm reading here, not on how much effort you put into it." It's like, oh, she is so right. So that was a good lesson pointed out, and I love seeing that in here. And again, we had some fascinating dialogue. So,
Interesting.
in kind of capping things off here, what I would like to know, and I'm intrigued because this is a to be redundant, a capstone for you. But
Mm.
I've never met an author who didn't have some insight or aha moment as they were putting together their work product here. What were the insights or aha moments that might have occurred to you as you're bringing this culmination of your life's work together in this great book?
I did learn a lot putting this together. It really forced me to be much more clear in my thinking about. There's a framework of lines of business, of all the lines of business that exist in every organization. It applies to companies as a whole, to departments, nonprofits, DoD. I've used it, local government. I've used it everywhere. That framework, it really forced me to be clear
Mm-hmm.
about those lines of business in different industries. So there was a lot of learning going on there. I'd already pretty formally developed in prior books the structure model and the internal economy, the resource governance model and culture. But this allowed me to play with how does all that apply to issues like governance or acquisitions integration or scalability,
Mm-hmm.
the role of leaders. I had to think more clearly about if everybody's empowered
Mm-hmm.
and if things are getting done laterally rather than up and down through a bureaucratic hierarchy, what is the role of the manager?
Mm-hmm.
What's left for them to do? So that was one area that I had to think
I love
about,
that one.
study a little further in the writing of this book. I learned a lot along the way. That was a good question.
Tremendous, tremendous. So what's your guidance? We have the C-level executive that's picking this book up saying, look, I need to do something and I need to do something different. What's your guidance for them as they begin to digest the concepts and approaches and your beautiful framework here? What's your guidance for them?
Well, I would start by asking them to focus on the underlying principles and ask, do I believe that? Because if you believe those fundamental principles like empowerment and internal entrepreneurship, the principles of design of structure, the application of market economics to sort out resource governance processes, if you believe in those principles, then we're on the same page as to where we're going. And then it just becomes a matter of how to get there.
How? Okay.
So start by saying, is this where I want to take my organization? Is this what I believe in? And you know, the willing suspension of disbelief, was that Tolkien who said that? Go in with a willing suspension of disbelief and say, well, let me just trust that we can get there over the years, not weeks or months. Is this where I want to go? And if it is, then we can focus on a very pragmatic plan to get from here to there. Typically, a transformation runs 3 to 5 years. But, progress at every step along the way, results at every step along the way.
I love that as kind of a closing comment there, the willing suspension of disbelief. So
this is possible. I've been out there implementing this. I've been working on this for 35 years. I've implemented every aspect of this somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm waiting for a CEO or C-level department lead who's visionary enough to want to put all the pieces together and build a real showcase organization. Introduce me to that person, and that'll be the real capstone.
May you have that, and may your remaining career be long, and I hope that comes to fruition for you many times over. Thank you so much, not only for the incredible resource that you've given all of us, but for your valuable time here and your support. This was great. Thanks, Dean.
All right, it's always a treat to be with you. Thank you so much. I'm honored, and my best wishes for continued success to all your students and your coaching clients. I hope this is a little bit of help. Thanks, Art.
Thanks, Dean.